If you've noticed your eyebrows getting thinner over the years in a way that they visibly look lighter, shorter, with that outer third slowly disappearing, you've probably been told it's just age or genetics or something you simply have to accept. Maybe you've tried serums, maybe you switched pencils and powders to fill them in. And if you went to a dermatologist, there's a good chance they either prescribed you a lash serum that barely works on eyebrows or mentioned transplants. What nobody told you is that in most cases, the follicles are not dead. They are dormant, and dormant means reactivatable if you know what's actually blocking them. When estrogen drops after menopause, testosterone doesn't disappear. Its ratio actually increases relative to estrogen. That shift matters because testosterone converts into a compound called DHT, dihydrotestosterone, through an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. DHT binds to receptors in hair follicles and shrinks them. It shortens the growth phase, thins the hair shaft, and over time, it puts the follicle into a prolonged resting state. This is the same mechanism behind scalp hair loss in men. The same biology is happening in your brow follicles, and almost no one talks about it in this context. The outer third of the eyebrow, which is the part closest to your temples, disappears first in most women over 50. That pattern is not random. That zone has the highest concentration of follicles sensitive to DHT, and it is also the first visible sign of subclinical hypothyroidism, meaning a thyroid that is underperforming but not yet flagged as a problem in standard blood tests. If your outer third is the part that's gone or nearly gone, that connection is worth paying attention to. It doesn't mean you have a thyroid condition, but it does mean the cause of your thinning is systemic, hormonal, and happening below the surface, not on the skin. There is something else happening simultaneously that most people miss entirely. Chronic low-grade inflammation in the follicle bed, driven by oxidative stress, estrogen decline, and in many women, years of microtrauma from tweezing, essentially suffocates the follicle. It restricts blood flow to the dermal papilla, which is the structure at the base of every follicle responsible for feeding and signaling it to grow. When blood flow is restricted and inflammation is present, the follicle goes quiet. It doesn't die. It waits. The difference between a dead follicle and a dormant one is that a dormant follicle can be brought back. And in most women dealing with eyebrow thinning in their 50s and 60s, those follicles are dormant, not dead. Think about where your eyebrows are right now. Are there areas where you can still see some fine, light hairs, even just a few? That is your answer. If the follicle were truly dead, nothing would be there at all. Most eyebrow serums work on a simple premise. They stimulate the surface, they sit on top of the skin, deliver some peptides or biotin derivatives to the upper layers of the epidermis, and hope the signal reaches down to where it needs to go. The problem is that the follicle bulb, which is the living, active part of the hair, actually sits deep in the dermis, well below where most topical products can reach without help. So the product is doing something, but it doesn't reach the right place. This is why the application method matters as much as the ingredient itself. You can have the right compound and still see nothing because it never reached the target tissue. The other issue is that most products do nothing to address the root cause, that is, the DHT sensitivity and the follicular inflammation. They're trying to stimulate growth without removing the thing that's blocking it. It's like watering a plant through a plastic sheet and wondering why nothing changes. Before mentioning the oil, I'm curious, how long have you been dealing with thinning brows, and when did you first notice the outer third going? Drop your age and where you're watching from in the comments. It would genuinely help me understand what's most relevant to cover in the next videos. The oil I want to talk about is black seed oil, more specifically called Nigella sativa. It's pressed from the seeds of a flowering plant that has been used medicinally for centuries, most prominently in Middle Eastern and South Asian medicine. It costs around $4 in most health food stores or online, and the reason surgeons and clinics are not directing you to it is straightforward. It removes the need for what they offer. The active compound in black seed oil is thioquinone. This molecule does several things simultaneously that are directly relevant to brow regrowth. First, it is a potent inhibitor of 5-alpha reductase, which simply is the enzyme that converts testosterone into DHT. By applying it directly to the follicle zone, you are blocking the conversion process at the source, in the exact tissue where the damage is happening, without affecting systemic hormone levels. Second, thymoquinone is strongly anti-inflammatory. It reduces the prostaglandin and cytokine activity that drives follicular inflammation, the same inflammation that restricts blood flow and keeps the follicle dormant. Third, it has demonstrated in clinical research the ability to increase hair density and reduce shedding, specifically in subjects with telogen effluvium, which is a form of diffuse hair loss driven by hormonal and stress-related triggers. There is also a circulatory component. Black seed oil contains nigellone and various unsaturated fatty acids that dilate local capillaries when applied topically. Better capillary dilation means more blood reaching the dermal papilla, more oxygen, more nutrients, and more of the growth signals the follicle needs to reactivate. This is not a moisturizer doing surface-level work. This is a compound that targets the specific biological mechanisms behind postmenopausal eyebrow loss. But there are other solutions that I need to mention in this video. The first is pumpkin seed oil. Like black seed oil, it is a natural 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, and its effect on DHT-driven hair loss has been studied in clinical trials. A double-blind, placebo-controlled study showed a significant increase in hair count in subjects with androgenic hair loss after 24 weeks of use. The mechanism is identical to what's happening in postmenopausal women, with excess DHT activity shutting down follicles. Pumpkin seed oil is milder in terms of potency, but it has a lighter texture and almost no scent, which some women prefer for use near the eyes. You can alternate between the two or combine them. The second is red onion juice. A study published in the Journal of Dermatology found that participants who applied crude onion juice to affected areas twice daily saw significantly higher hair regrowth than the control group, with some showing results in as little as 2 weeks. The mechanism is twofold. The high sulfur content supports keratin production, keratin being the primary structural protein in hair, and the quercetin in onion acts as an antioxidant that directly reduces follicular inflammation. The obvious limitation is the smell, which is why I'd suggest using it early in the evening, leaving it for 30 minutes, and rinsing thoroughly before applying the oil overnight. The follicle bulb sits approximately 3 to 4 millimeters below the skin surface in the brow zone. Standard topical application will not get the compound to that depth. What you need is a way to create temporary microchannels in the stratum corneum, which is the outermost layer of skin, and that allow the active compounds to move deeper. The tool for this is a derma roller, specifically a 0.25 millimeter needle depth. This is the smallest size available and the only one appropriate for the face. At this depth, it does not penetrate the dermis, it only disrupts the very surface of the stratum corneum enough to allow significantly better absorption. Studies on topical minoxidil have shown that prior microneedling increases absorption by over 400%. The method is simple. Cleanse the brow area gently with water only, no cleanser. Pat completely dry. Roll the derma roller over the brow zone, including slightly above and below the natural brow line, where dormant follicles often exist, using light pressure in horizontal, vertical, and diagonal directions, approximately 10 passes in each direction. You will feel a mild scratching sensation. There should be no pain and no bleeding. Immediately apply 2 to 3 drops of black seed oil to your fingertip and press it gently into the brow zone using small circular motions for about 30 seconds. Do not rub. Pressing allows the oil to move into the microchannels. Rubbing disperses it across the surface. Leave it overnight. Do this every other night, not every night. The skin needs time to recover between sessions. On the nights you are not derma rolling, apply the oil directly without rolling. Absorption will be lower, but consistent nightly contact with the follicle zone still maintains the anti-inflammatory and DHT blocking effect. Expect to see fine regrowth in 3 to 6 weeks, and fuller results between 8 and 12 weeks. If your outer third has been missing for years rather than months, the skin over a chronically inactive follicle zone can develop a degree of fibrosis. That is a mild hardening of the tissue around the follicle from years of inactivity and scarring from old tweezing. Fibrotic tissue restricts the follicle's ability to expand even if it reactivates. A simple way to address this is a firm daily massage using your ring fingers in small circular motions directly on the brow line for 2 to 3 minutes before your oil application on non-rolling nights. This improves local circulation and gradually breaks down minor fibrotic adhesions. One more physical barrier removed between the product and the follicle. Postmenopausal eyebrow thinning is primarily a DHT and follicular inflammation problem, not a surface skin problem. The outer third disappearing first is a specific signal, not random thinning. Black seed oil addresses the root mechanism directly through thymoquinone. This is an ingredient with real clinical backing. And applying it without microneedling first means most of it never reaches the tissue that needs it. The product is only half the answer. The method is the other half. None of this requires a clinic visit or a prescription, and none of this is new knowledge. It has simply never been put together in a way that was directly useful to you, until now. So if you found the information in this video useful, consider subscribing to not miss the next videos.